sometimes you avoid them. Sometimes it's best to avoid them. But I've been trying to talk a little more about it because I think it is important, and some of the topics are really important.
It's really difficult to engage anyone in polarizing issues unless you know they agree with you ahead of time.
It's hard. It's difficult. I don't think there's really any magic formula. When I say me personally, I do try to listen first and then respond and think about my own responses later.
It's best to try to truly see from their standpoint, so kind of asking their opinion first and seeing things from their side.
I think just starting conversations, like not holding back on what I truly think and trying to encourage them to tell me what they truly think as well.
So you might want to just jump and be like, here's my thoughts, and kind of spew out like, here's why I think this way, here's why I feel this way. But I think that I've been getting better at trying to be like, what do you think? Or how about that? Or, what are your thoughts on this?
So there are times when I have to stop myself from getting emotional about it and remove that emotion and think about it logically instead of trying to win the argument.
This person may have a position that you disagree with, and in fact, it may be a position that's harmful to others, but often that position is not coming from a place of malice.
Generally, I like to stray off of talking about it online, especially with people I don't know, because oftentimes it can get mean and not really focusing on the actual issue.
Lately, I really have just avoided engaging online altogether. Initially, when Facebook and social media first came out, I was pretty active and would engage with people. And I learned a lot from people with varying opinions. But what I found is that just sort of led to, this, again, the kind of that vacuum of information. So it just wasn't productive for me anymore.
Online, it doesn't usually go well for anybody, so I don't engage often online. I will occasionally, repost an article that I find is really important or that has some really good information. But as far as getting into dialogue online, for me, I don't find it very productive.
I've written posts on social media to share my perspective, and then I've engaged with any people who have commented, especially those that disagree with me, so that I can start to elaborate further on why I believe what I believe. This has been entirely ineffective, and so I don't know if I recommend that strategy. And strategy number 2 has been just don't engage in polarizing conversations online.
I don't know, online, the number of deep conversations and actually productive discussions are not really in existence.
I always hate answering this question because I start to sound like a crotchety old man, like get off my lawn. But I think it's social media. I think that is the biggest driver.
That division started earlier, but then it really was exacerbated as the algorithms on social media created this vacuum to where people are not exposed to other people's opinions anymore.
Social media, the technology and the algorithms, they have it now where they feed you what you want to see.
You find yourself in a bubble and you start to think that that's the world. And then you go and interact offline with folks who are in a different social media bubble than you are, and it clashes with that perspective that you've built up.
And you can look online and find one set of even data that says this, and you can find the exact opposite thing that says that. And so I think it gets hard for people to have it because we're not looking at the same stuff.
There's a trend of taking issues that really should not be polarized and polarizing them for the sake of elevating a party. A lot of the times when issues are polarized, they aren't actually about the issue at hand. They're about picking sides and fighting against each other.
Is it really more dysfunctional than it's ever been? It feels like we sort of always existed in this place of utter chaos, and it feels like everything around us has always been falling apart. It's just hard to imagine that this is a new phenomenon. In some ways it always feels like the world is ending and we're just growing up and finally realizing it.
The best thing you can do is have conversations. Now that's an easier said than done. That's a great idea, but how do you actually execute it?
Finding solutions for this issue is really, really, really difficult. I think a lot of people like to talk about the problems, but they don't really want to talk about the solutions just because of how difficult it is.
From a social studies perspective, I think some of that has to happen in classrooms, teaching students how to have conversations with people that we disagree.
A lot of it comes down to education and conversations, especially at an early age. Pushing off uncomfortable topics until people are, more mature. While it makes sense in theory, in practice, it doesn't really do anything except harm discussion.
I think it's important to just understand that these discussions need to be had in a way that does not make people feel like their safety and their validity is in jeopardy in a space of education.
My grim answer is that there might not be solutions. We might just be doomed to this for a while anyways, because it's profitable for the companies who design these websites or social media outlets.
And those are really grand ideas. How do you actually execute them? I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know if it gets better. I hope it does, but I don't know how.